views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in a cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
Ghost stories,
folklore,
psychics and mediums,
shamanism,
paranormal investigations,
haunted locations, and all that other weird shit.
You're listening to the Traveler's Moon Podcast
with the Paranomad, Chris Nielsen,
and Kelly McCarville, Moonspinner.
Here are your hosts, Chris and Kelly.
Yahoo! All right, we're live. Amityville Part 2. Let's do it.
Damn.
Oh, yeah, I took my headphones out before I yahooed.
That was brutal.
It's okay.
Okay, then.
All right, cool. Yeah, we have our headphones in. There's a weird little echo back, so...
Yeah.
You got that twice, didn't you?
I did, and it was loud.
Now the key is to take them out first.
Both times.
Well, yahoo, everybody. Welcome to Amityville Part 2.
Yeah. So, as we discovered 2 weeks ago when we started doing the Amityville show, an hour and, what did we go? About an hour and 20 minutes is not long enough.
Hour 4.
To even go through all of the history, let alone have any sort of discussion about it.
I've got mad street cred when it comes to rapping now because of how quickly I went through those 28 days.
He didn't regain his normal breathing rhythm for hours after
I still don't have it.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. So tonight what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to take all of those facts that we spewed out to you guys, or the information that we had gathered, at least. I don't know that I necessarily want to call them facts, because that's part of what we're going to discuss. And just really kind of go through
given details. Given details.
And just kind of go through them again and kind of talk about... you want to hand me the sheet, because my memory sucks. The sheet is...
Oh, like the...
Yeah.
Yeah, we have notes. All that paper wrestling here. We are...
Those are my notes. Because I barely remember my name on a good day, so...
And it's weird, because I read through mine enough to completely memorize the Amityville Horror.
I find when I write things down, I remember it better.
I wrote it down and then, verbally and in my head read through it at least 4 or 5 times.
So, yeah, where do we want to start with all this?
So let's do just kind of a quick recap. Obviously, we don't want to go super quick. Keep it under 2 minutes.
So we'd start out with 1974. Ronald.
Ronnie.
So why do I always go to Robert?
I have no idea.
Ronald Butch DeFeo killed his mom, his dad, and his 4 siblings. See, I can't remember shit. I gotta go look it up. No, it was 4 siblings.
6 people died.
It was 4 siblings.
Yeah,
Dawn, 18, Allison, 13, Mark, 12, and John, 9. So, Ronnie Butch DeFeo killed his...
Ronnie was the oldest of 5.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That's where that
he killed his parents and his 4 siblings. And he was convicted for all of that, although his stories changed many, 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 many times. Part of his story was that he heard voices telling him that...
and I feel like that's the most, I don't know if I'm going to say socially accepted version of the story, is that the voices told him to do it. He was essentially possessed for the process.
Well, and I don't know that anybody's really ever come right out and said, he was possessed. Okay. I think they just kind of said that he reported hearing the voices in his head tell him that his parents were going to kill him. So, I mean, nobody really... I'm going to...
on the air.
So sorry,
Disgusting.
Guys. Social distancing. I don't know that anybody ever really came right out and said that he was possessed, though. I mean,
when I hear the devil made me do it, that's kind of what my brain.
But did he ever really say that the devil made him do it? He just
somewhere in my memory bank says that.
So there was a rumor, and I don't know that I wrote any of this down, but there was supposedly a rumor that a demon in a hoodie had broke into the
A
house.
demon with a hood with black hands.
Or something like that. Had broke into
exactly
the house or had talked to him and told him he needed to kill his parents or told him that his parents were going to kill him or something like that.
Allegedly, the demon with the black hood and the hood with black hands was who handed him the rifle.
Yeah. And, in some of the reading that I did, and it was kind of interesting because, so there's so many things about this. And it's like, who knows if it's true or not. So supposedly the whole family was being watched because of their potential mafia involvement.
Oh my gosh, it leads to one of my favorite conspiracy theories about the DeFeo murders. Do you mind if I could break it down real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to give the most Reader's Digest version of this, and I don't think it's even widely socially accepted. It's just one of the theories I happen to have heard. So the story goes that the DeFeo family was actually killed by the U.S. government. Ask me the fuck how.
How?
So, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to start off with the why, because my brain's all over the place right now, because this is so preposterous, and I love it for that. So, with their attachment to the mafia, the entire town of Amityville was terrified of the DeFeo family.
Because of that?
Yeah, because of their mafia attachment, so they were going around threatening people. Anyways, they decided to call up the U.S. government, and who else gets involved but the government mafia? That's the exact words. The government mafia gets involved.
That makes
So
sense.
the government mafia stays outside, stakes out the house for a few days, ends up killing the family with a electronic pulse that goes through the wall, kills the families. They leave Ronnie DeFeo alive as a patsy. They go in, shoot everybody in the back, and as payment for this hit by the United States Mafia, the government mafia, the town of Amityville is now in debt, and they need to repay that debt by getting another family that lets us to quickly move in and be subjected to another form of U.S. government ray machine that through the wall basically is like a mental torture kind of thing. I shit you not, this is someone's actual theory.
I did not stumble across this theory.
I came across this.
This is pretty deep conspiracy theory.
Oh, I'm wearing my tinfoil hat right now. I think the government mafia got the DeFeos.
Okay.
So we definitely crossed the 2-minute mark.
But back to some of the original, maybe more logical, realistic.
About to say we crossed the 2-minute mark, so that's the DeFeo murders in a nutshell. I feel like,
but there's more to the DeFeo. So
everybody got shot. Everybody got shot.
Okay, we're doing just the high level history.
Yeah, we're doing the
We'll go back
digest.
and talk about my.
We have a whole episode on the actual history.
I'll go back to my butts when you're done sharing this.
Oh, go to the butts
about the DeFeos.
Yeah, go for it.
Because there's a million butts about this. So if there truly was a agent of whatever kind sitting outside that was watching the family, of all people, why didn't he hear the gunshots?
Okay, so I thought we were doing questions in a minute.
Well, that's what I just asked.
Well, that's not a question. That was a question Darren put in the.
Well, but that was a question I had too. Okay, so one of the other theories.
If you have a question, let's save it till after the recap.
Okay, so supposedly this guy that was sitting outside, though, also reported, or somebody reported, I can't remember what I even read, somebody reported that they also saw someone in a hoodie leave the house with a shotgun. And so, that kind of leads into his story of a demon with a hood told me to do it. But it also kind of leads into the whole, they thought his sister had something to do with it.
I heard he had something to do with the sister.
Well, that's a whole other topic. So,
but yeah, it was a weird series of events.
We'll get to the questions and how did that happen with the way that it happened. Do we want to go into the
I guess that was almost kind of a recap. I guess I could fit into the recap, though. It was the theory behind it was actually Ronnie's sister shot everybody.
Yeah.
And Ronnie shot her going over the gun, which I guess was in the last episode.
Yep. That they fought over the gun.
I had heard Ronnie's mom did it all, and his sister killed her.
That was that was one of his stories that he shared with the cops. That's a fact. That he shared the story.
Yeah. The only real facts to much of this is a few people got shot, and
the many excuses he made, the many stories that he shared.
And then the only other real facts post that would be the Lutz family. All we know for certain is a family moved into a house.
Do we know for sure the Lutz family moved in there?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the only thing I really do know. So
have
Lutz
we
family
seen
moved
land
in.
deeds, titles to the house?
I physically haven't, but
I'm sure they
it's a
moved in
horribly
there.
written story if they didn't even move in.
So what was the high level? What's the history?
So 28 days later, they moved out. Done.
They moved in, they moved out.
That's all we really know. And there's some relative inconsistencies. So now we're going to kind of start diving into the actual conversation aspect of this. So if at any point I'm sitting here, blue gel pen in hand, ready to take notes. If anybody has any questions that you want us to address in the comments
And
section.
Darren, we did grab yours.
Darren, we got yours already. If anybody else has any, or even thoughts, because I feel like everybody's got something different to say when it comes to what actually allegedly might have happened here, which I realize now is super redundant to say allegedly might have happened, but yeah. So,
but yeah, we definitely want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on some of the
questions, comments,
information.
Concerns.
Yeah, that we shared last time. But I think my biggest question, to go to the DeFeo side of it first, to start with the actual murders, my biggest question of it is, how in the hell, loud gun or not, how in the hell did they make 6 shots with nobody hearing it? Because, so here's the thing. I always thought from the way that they show the pictures of the house that maybe it sat where there wasn't like houses close to it or anything. But like if you go and look at some of the actual pictures of the house, there are neighbors not far away at all. There's no reason they should have not heard those gunshots.
Well, that's exactly it. They were in on it because they hired the government mafia to off the DeFeos. No, so I do agree. That is one of the weird details of the story.
Okay, let's even take the neighbors out of it, and let's take the supposed agent sitting out of the house. How did you kill 6 people without anybody else waking up?
So I don't know. So the way my brain works when it comes to this.
Keep in mind, one of the facts of the story, and this is a fact of the story, guys, is that during their autopsy, there were no toxins, no sedatives, no alcohol, no drugs of any kind found in their blood, their urine, or their organs. So
my thinking with this anyways is that that death ray through the wall just got him in their sleep. No, seriously. Okay, seriously though. So my thinking is, yeah, maybe the first 2 to get, even the first one to get shot. That's, 1 down, few to go. My thinking was maybe they weren't necessarily asleep when they got shot. So it was maybe some of them were pretending to sleep. Or if I'm a crazed fellow with a gun, I'm like, if it's my family. No matter what was going on mentally with him, I feel like there's got to be some mental registration when it comes to shooting your own family, that he didn't want to look them in the eye when it happened. So he's like, lay on your stomach. It'll be over.
But how does he control 6 people while he shoots them?
With a freaking gun.
But he's only got 1 gun.
So but he's the guy with the gun. So I'm going to preface this with, if anything happens in the next 5 years, it was not premeditated. If I were to get a gun and I decided to just off everybody in the house, there wouldn't be a single issue of, you're saying somebody would fight back.
Hell yeah. Not fight back, but one would run. Okay, let's take this. If everybody's here,
and keep in mind, most of them are kids.
But they're not kids.
They're
teenagers.
Kids.
And so
that's still kids. I still feel like that's where you can be, oh shit, I'm just going to lay here and hope it all ends soon. Hope he doesn't come to my room.
But an 18-year-old?
Hell yeah, because she's... Okay, so I'm also...
Assuming she's not in it.
Darren addressed this, and for my personal, thoughts on the matter, I think there's just as much chance she was involved as she wasn't, because she was the only one shot in the head.
True.
So the change in MO suggests something changed.
Different. Something was different.
And my thoughts, I'm on 1 of 2 things, and one is that everybody hit the floor type of thing, where he was just like, hey, I've got a gun.
But there's evidence they were shot in their beds.
And that's what I'm saying. He made them lay in the bed.
Okay, but it's to go back to my theory, because we're devil advocating this. Okay, so you bust into my house, and it's me and my 4 kids.
I'm busting in the house. I'm already here.
Okay. Yeah. But you're pointing a gun at me, and you're getting ready to shoot. Or let's say you're getting ready to shoot one of the kids, and I'm just saying that out loud makes me want to.
Oh yeah, that's why I didn't actually say it.
But you're going to shoot somebody else, and I'm standing here with 3 other people. I'm going to tell one of them, run now. You know, and if you're going to turn around and fire, I'm going to get in the way. But one person still frickin' runs. You cannot control that many people, even with a gun.
Then how do people hold up whole freaking banks?
I don't know.
Because the person with the gun is a scary, intimidating thing.
But stupidity. Somebody run. Take a chance.
Because when fight or flight occurs, most people don't fight. Most people don't even fly. They freeze. That's what an initial fear response, generally speaking, is. Fear is a huge paralytic.
Because somebody would
but you haven't encountered this, so you don't know exactly what you are. Anyways, I feel like we're sticking really hard to this, and I haven't gotten a chance to spew my whole idea. So he shoots everybody, and that's kind of what my thought was. My other thought was, and Derek can address this in the comments, that I think maybe the whole him and his sister were in on it, and she was the last to go. And I don't know which one of those two I'm more fond of. And I don't want to say fond because that's a little macabre, but...
Which one do you lean more towards?
Yeah, what one I lean more towards?
So...
And I think as long as we're doing DeFeo things, I don't know if we need to hit all the questions in order.
We'll answer.
So we did answer Matt's. Was toxicology done? You already answered that.
Yep.
Yes, a toxicology report was done.
But even that, there was some controversy over, because originally the police report had said
there was no evidence of it.
No, but hang on. Let me find my notes. The police investigation stated that there was not a silencer used and that the family was drugged. However, the toxicology report was done on their blood, their urine, and their organs, and nothing was found.
So what did you find that... What did they find that suggested they were drugged?
It didn't say. It just said that the police report stated that
some of the details are just way too vague. The government mafia did it.
It's a possibility. And so, okay, but to go back to even the family sleeping. So I'm going to compare this to Villisca, because that's one of the questions that you get for the Villisca murders too, is how did nobody wake up during the murders? Well, first off, the Stillinger girls did, but that's besides the point. How did the 4 kids sleeping upstairs not wake up? Kids, when they're little...
An axe is a lot quieter than a gun.
Well, not only that, but kids, when they're little, they are dead to the world when they are sleeping. I mean, I have literally picked up my kids and drugged them into a bedroom, thrown them down on a bed because I was exhausted by the time I carried their big butts in there, and they stayed sound asleep. Little kids will do that. But these kids weren't little. I mean, Dawn was 18 and Allison was 13 and Mark was 12. They're not tiny.
But they're still kids.
Nah. But to sleep through a gunshot in the house?
I don't think they were necessarily sleeping through a gunshot. I think it was that freeze portion of the freeze fight or flight response to something scary.
Go back to your concept of them not running because they had a gun pointed at them. That absolutely leads to Dawn being involved, because one's doing the shooting, one's holding the other one still. Then for sure they didn't run because there was a gun pointed at them.
So what do you think happened?
Can I go with the aliens? Oh, no. I guess it wasn't aliens.
It was the government mafia. Come on.
Same difference.
It's not the same difference. Aliens are here. Governments keep the aliens here.
Well, let's answer all the questions first, and then we'll get to this. And we've kind of got to watch our time to make sure that we don't spend more.
I feel like we're spewing too much. We have just a ton of questions.
Okay, how many? What?
So your mom had a question on, were they shot where they lay?
No, from where they were found, there was evidence that they were shot where they were found. Yes, so they were not shot in another location and taken back to their beds.
With the parents shot twice, this is where I fall off the Ronnie was, possessed, or the devil told him to do it. So the Feo household was actually a insanely contentious place, and Ronald DeFeo Sr. regularly beat his kids, beat his wife.
He was abusive and mean and
Butch was the primary person.
He was a mafia.
I think that was just the
That's-
emotional bang bang. Like one wasn't enough.
No,
like,
and I
everybody else
absolutely
had
agree.
to die for some reason or other, but the parents were the source of the
Because
trauma.
I also
so they
heard the
needed
mother
to
was
do it
not
themselves.
exactly
A fantastic person.
unabusive. Yeah. And if she wasn't doing it herself, she was at least turning a blind eye to the dad doing it. So, yeah, I definitely think that there was some rage involved with the parents. Why the kids? Who knows, other than to not get caught. But I don't know. What is that pretty much?
So the other one was, why didn't anybody hear the shot?
There's not an answer to that.
Because the town of Amityville was in on it, and they just decided to keep their mouth shut when the government mafia is doing their job.
There's just not an answer to that. And for anybody who listened to the first show, the gun that was used is like a
At least the
super
neighborhood,
loud
yeah.
gun. And again, I thought it was because the house wasn't close enough to other houses to be heard, but
And Mom Pat left in the comments, though, there's times even at the Mason house where people will be hearing something distinctly in one room and not in another. So
that's a paranormal
and
sound.
it's a paranormal. Yeah, it's a paranormal state. Like, because a knock on a wall is a physical sound.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Or is it like an EVP knock and we just assume that it's a physical sound?
I'm going to say it's a physical sound because I've felt some of them.
Well, I felt them too. So, but you asked me what's my theory on the DeFeo murders. I think the sister had to have been involved. If it wasn't the sister, somebody else was involved, because there's no way that you can capture and control that many people and get off that many shots
Because
without
there was also a theory it was the sister and her
Another
boyfriend.
person.
And Ronnie actually had an alibi, which was his secret wife. I think it was Francine or something like that.
Yeah, but according to that, they researched all of that, and she wasn't his secret wife. She was married to somebody else, and
I think when it comes to the actual DeFeo murders, the waters are just too muddy.
I think when it comes to the whole thing, the waters are too muddy.
Okay, so I don't think the waters are too muddy when it comes to the Lutz thing. So we're gonna. If anybody has anything else on the murders, by all means, we will address it. So drop in the comments. Yeah, I had a few general questions about the whole situation. I guess one of them was, do you think DeFeo was influenced by anyone or anything when he killed people? Because I have an immediate answer.
I don't know.
I do.
By anyone or anything?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely something influenced
LSD,
it.
heroin,
But-
and feed.
And that's the thing. It could have been the drugs. It could have been that he was crazy. It could have been that he was influenced by his abusive father. It could have been that he was influenced by other mafia members. It could have been that he was, who knows? There could have been a million things.
But the mafia thing was a
could-
relatively loose connection.
And it could have been that he was influenced by a demon. Who knows? I mean, okay, I have to say the demon aspect is probably pretty rare because you know my thoughts on demons. But so was there something motivating him to do it? Absolutely. But what is it? Was he nuts? Was it who's to say that the mafia didn't hire him
do
to
LSD and heroin and speed in like a similar time frame and not have some sort of freak out, especially with all of his traumatic
his
backstory.
antisocial personality?
Yeah, that's pretty antisocial, shooting a house full of people.
So yeah, is there something that influenced him? Yeah, but who's to say this? The answer to that rolls 100% into the Lutz's story. Then, if the Lutz's story is pure bullshit, then he was influenced by drugs and mental conditions. But if their story's real, then was he influenced by something paranormal?
I don't think those are mutually exclusive, though.
But
Because there's plenty of people who live in a haunted house who don't off their whole freaking family.
True, but could this be something that influenced a person too? Because that's where the Lutzes were heading, is that he was being compelled, he was getting the feelings that he should kill his family. So did Ronnie just not get out of there in time and it took over? So that goes into the next half of this of, do we believe that the haunting is true or not? So do we want a high level recap the haunting?
For the haunting, a lot of lack of personal hygiene. There's a little child abuse. There was a priest who was getting sick.
With zero help other than throwing up and being gross.
Oh, yeah, honestly, like I mentioned last episode, all of this is his fault. So yeah, the Lutz family moved into the house. I want to say it was like 13 months after the DeFeo murders, and from there, George seemed to be the primarily afflicted from the point of view of at least the book.
The wife was a little bit, but
and the wife was too.
Yeah, but primarily.
If you let me finish.
You interrupted me a million times.
Oh, yeah. So George and Kathy were definitely the primary focuses. And I guess Missy had her little red-eyed demon pig friend, Jody, who was a fantastic influence. But yeah, so if we're going to look at this from the standpoint of it was actually a demon, there are a lot of things associated with demonic oppression there. And that is that George was growing increasingly, I guess both of the parents were constantly growing increasingly agitated. George was always cold, waking up at 3 a.m., being physically, mentally worn down throughout the events.
But was it oppression? Or
if we're looking at this from what the Lutz story actually is, yes, this is textbook demonic oppression.
But is it demonic oppression or is it oppression of the house? Because I can tell you that I got a lot of...
What I'm saying is if we're working with the idea that this was a demon, yes, this was textbook demonic oppression.
But was it? Because when I go into the Velisca house, I get a lot of oppression as well. I get a lot of horrible, rotten, nasty feelings, but it's not.
If we're going with the context of the demon's plan, the demon exists. Okay, in this hypothetical, the demon exists. Correct?
Sure.
In this hypothetical,
you know how hard that is for me to say. The
demon exists. It got Butch DeFeo to kill his family. It makes sense that the next thing it's going to do is make the next occupant of the house kill its family. So what I'm saying is specifically in this hypothetical situation, yes, it's textbook demonic oppression.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not specifically like terrorizing, scaring them away. What it's doing is making them stay, beating them down, getting them to a mental state where demonic possession can occur.
Right. Okay, so let's roll with this theory. Then why was it just the Lutz family? Why did it stop when they left?
That's the next on my questions. So do you want to break down the haunting or go to what happened after the Lutzes left?
Okay, we can keep going while they're there.
Okay. So we are scrolling so bad tonight.
It's so hard to go through the history, though, because this.
So let's try to keep it as chronological as possible. Right now, we're doing the Lutzes right now during the events of the haunting, and the real question is whether or not it was true.
See, but even that is kind of a loaded question because it could.
But it's not. Do you think it was true, or do you think it was bullshit?
Potentially it was true.
Well, that can be said with literally every story ever.
It is 12 months after horrific events took place in that house. Even if it wasn't technically haunted, that residual energy could have still been in the house. And maybe it was on the tail end of working itself out, and that would be the explanation for why no family after the Lutzes experienced anything. That the spirits of the family wasn't there. There wasn't a demon that was there. It was just that leftover residual energy. And for whatever reason, it was cleared out after the Lutzes left. But that seems...
But there's an actual reason. We'll get to that in a minute. So Darren actually kind of addressed this with the murders happening and the Lutzes moving in not long afterwards. How much time is needed to cause that kind of haunting? I don't think much is at all. I think a wound is grossest when it's still fresh. It's not so much when it's a scar.
And it depends on if you're going with the haunting or if you're going with the residual energy. The residual energy is going to be there immediately. A haunting, that depends. It sometimes, if it's a tragic ending, which this was, the spirits can be there right away. But traditionally, when a person passes, it takes time for them to come back into that spirit form to be a ghost.
By your definition. And what's a long time to you isn't necessarily a long time in spirit form, because time only exists for us.
I can just go by what they tell me.
Time only exists for us.
But I can only go by what they tell me.
But what if they tell somebody else something different?
Well, there's been more than one spirit tell me the same thing. And yes, it's right. They don't have a concept of time. So it depends. And And it isn't like a spirit can
So what if it was one of those things like, say you're Ron DeFeo Sr. Pop, lights out, immediately incorporeal. Yeah, I kind of get it. I was a bit of a douche. And he's already kind of started that process of, okay, I'm dead. I'm going to start.
It depends on how
out.
quickly he gets through that review period.
And I'm saying it's that quick, like quicker than it takes him to, wolf down Mom Spaghetti. Hey, yeah, I was a bit of a douche. I probably deserve to get shot.
Yeah, I don't know.
And this is probably how I was going to go out anyways.
Yeah, I don't know. To get through your review period, I don't think it can happen that fast. To refuse to enter your review period and actually start haunting a place.
We're squirreling again so bad. We're going into review periods. And
so very sorry.
No, I'm saying we're squirreling again, and we've got, I guess, a half hour still. So you don't think it could happen that fast?
And it could. That's why I'm saying everything depends. It depends.
So in this situation, it's possible.
Potentially.
Yeah, as a yes or no answer. Is it possible?
13 months after the murders, yes.
Okay. Now we're getting there. We're concise. We're streamlining.
Could also just be residual energy.
But residual energy, the events and the hauntings aren't aspects of residual haunting. Now, if they're just periodically hearing gunshots in the night, I would call that a residual haunting. Okay, but when Kathy Lutz is in the kitchen and she feels a hand grab her with the smell of stanky perfume, that to me is no longer residual. Nothing described in the Amityville Horror was a residual haunting. This is all intelligent.
Everything you're going with, though, is that any of this actually happened.
But that's all we can go off of. So, if we're working under the assumption that it did happen, just critiquing the information given to us.
But part of the information that was given to us, though, is that they made this whole thing up. That they sat down with their lawyer, Mr. Weber.
That wasn't their lawyer. That was Ryan DeFeo's, and I don't believe it was a thing.
Well, but they spent a night together sitting out
drinking wine. They were sitting there drinking wine.
And supposedly made the whole story up. That's one of the rumors. So you can't ignore the fact
Then I have to say that the Lutz family was just as mentally ill as Ryan DeFeo. Because there is no way they could have known a story like this was going to take off like it did and make the millions of dollars to make up for the fact that they tanked their credit just abandoning a house, that they lost a ton of money in actual possessions they left behind. They never went back for their things.
But if nothing happens, then they got a beautiful house.
No, they didn't.
They could go back.
They moved out. They left it abandoned.
They could go back.
So George Lutz tanked his personal business for the continuity of the story.
The Ronnie DeFeo murders had already gotten a lot of publicity. So to ride on the coattails of the fame,
I think it would have made a great story, but to bet literally everything on it?
People are crazy. And they'll do anything for fame and money.
So they were as mentally ill as Ronnie DeFeo. Because that, in my mind, is the only scenario where I don't know if that's mentally ill.
People are just weird.
No, that level of commitment is a sign of mental illness. It just absolutely has to be.
Yeah, but this goes into the whole concept of all of this. That's your opinion. I think some people are just that narcissistic and greedy.
Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental illness. Y'all hear that? That's the sound of Jenga.
No, that's the sound of it's not worth arguing over. So we can move on.
So I guess, so where do you sit? True or false? No fence running. If you had to call it right now, true or false?
I don't know. I don't know that I can call it true or false because all we have to go off of is supposeds. Now, let me talk to one of them. And I'll make a better call because I'm going to read the energy of them telling me that. I'm going to read the energy of whether they're telling me the truth or not. But all we have is information that we've read, not even directly from the source. We can't even talk to anybody who was directly involved yet. You know.
I mean, you can.
We got to figure that out.
No, because Danny's pretty open about it.
But we haven't.
And. I mean, we haven't, but if we're going off of information available to us, Danny.
But what I'm saying is I haven't, so that's hard for me to say whether or not it's true or false.
I'm not acting as a judge and jury right now. I'm just doing what I can, which is speculating with the information I have.
I 100% believe that a house can be haunted, obviously, because of what we do. I know that hauntings are real. I know that spirits in a house can be real. And I know that that energy can have a huge effect on the people who are in that location. My biggest thing that makes me go, I don't know if this is real, is the fact that the families that moved in after them had absolutely nothing happen.
We're going to hit that in a second.
Well, let's hit that.
Well, hang on. So I'm just making sure we didn't have more questions. So, Darren's comment, would never buy a house just so I could lose my business and leave everything. That's so unlikely to happen. I agree.
Unless you don't think it's going to happen. And there's crazy people who think that they can do the impossible.
Is I think something did happen to the Lutz family. What I don't think is that the walls bled green ooze and there was a demon figure that chased them out and all that jazz. I think they experienced things.
Oh, I wouldn't.
And I think after that, they decided to. I mean,
they embellished.
What I was going to go with is they had a couple creepy things happen. They pushed out. They left, and then they over embellished this big old story. Because at the time, we were primed and ready for another great ghost story because we had just had The Exorcist.
And they saw how popular that was.
Oh, yeah. And I think it kind of got over-embellished.
So
do I think something happened? Yeah, definitely.
And I don't know how a house like that couldn't have at least some residual
Well, that was
haunting.
the next question I had. Do you think... So if we were to walk into the Amityville house today, do you think it would have like a Belisca-esque vibe to it?
I most definitely
Because there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I definitely think that there'd be some residue left in that house, for sure. The difference would be Belisca has been kept as a museum and has been continued to be investigated.
People are stoking the fire.
Right. Where for Amityville, it's being sold as a family home and people have been living in there.
The town hates the mention of it.
Yeah, not trying to stoke that fire. So they haven't been keeping it going as strongly. So would we feel it as strong as at least I feel the Belisca house? Possibly not. But to think that you can walk in there and it's going to be squeaky clean, I just don't believe that's possible. Not with the tragedies that happened in that house. It's going to leave a scar. So yeah, I wholeheartedly believe the Lutzes probably experienced something. Wholeheartedly believe they experienced something. Do I believe that it happened the way that they described it?
Not exactly, but there are some details that I can't really ignore. And weirdly enough, one of them is Jody the pig. Because that is such a bizarre, specific detail that I don't know how you would make something, unless there was something culturally going on at the time that kind of got lost through the pages of history.
Or Jody just liked pigs.
Jody wasn't a person.
Or, I mean, sorry, not
Missy?
Jody. Missy. Maybe Missy really liked pigs.
But Missy acknowledged there was a pig. George and Kathy both saw a pig. They both saw a red-eyed demon pig. And that is so random.
Pareidolia. They'd had it in their head at that point that there was a random pig.
In the chronological order of events, it wasn't revealed Jody was a pig until after they had both seen the pig.
So if Missy hadn't revealed that it was a pig before her parents said that they saw a pig, did Jody
They didn't
just
say they saw a pig. The parents were pretty uptight about this. They weren't even talking to each other.
So how'd they both figure out it was a pig?
Because it was talked about later. God, didn't you even listen to the last episode?
I did. You remember I don't remember things? But that's my point. Okay, so let's take my little one. Okay? If I told him something, if he said, I saw a guy standing outside in the driveway, and 3 days later I'm like, hey, was he in a green shirt? He'd have been like, oh yeah, he was in a green shirt. He could have been in a bright pink shirt. But if I asked if he was in a bright green shirt, if he was in a green shirt, Ian would say yes. Kids, especially little kids. But it wasn't just kids.
It was a general consensus between George and Kathy, and Jody didn't even talk to them first. She told Danny about Jody being a pig first.
I don't remember.
So if we're going to break it down really quick chronologically, George sees a pig on Christmas morning in Missy's room. Later that day, Missy tells Danny that, hey, my friend Jody, she's a red-eyed demon pig. And
Danny was who again?
Her brother.
Okay.
Oh my gosh!
I can't remember names. I can't remember my kids' names.
This is true. I've seen this happen. So then later on, Kathy sees Red-Eyed Demon Pig, starts deciding to talk to Missy about it. So tell me more about your friend Jody. Oh, she's a Red-Eyed Demon. In that order.
Okay, supposedly. So,
but all of this is supposed to be.
George
We're working off the
hallucinates.
information.
Right. So George hallucinates that he sees a pig. Missy tells Danny about her imaginary friend. Danny overheard George talk about the pig, and he goes to his mom and says,
nobody was talking about the pig.
We don't know that.
Per the
they're not going to come right out and say that they fabricated it if they did.
But at that point, it's not fabrication. It's just a misunderstanding. It's just the human brain doing what it does, which is trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. What I'm saying is, in the events, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. They don't talk about that. 100% agree with that.
It's so weirdly specific. Now, okay, so if we're going with this, they mentally over-embellished the story. I would say, hey, I saw a pig, and then somebody would be like, I saw a goat, and then I saw a fucking shirtless man with a goat's head and the bottom half of a goat with a pentagram burned into its forehead. Things like that would escalate, but it wasn't. It was just a red-eyed demon pig running around the house, causing all sorts of hell, but not really causing all sorts of hell because she mostly spent time with Missy.
Okay. Devil's advocate. Was the pig in a hoodie?
No.
Because according to Ronnie, the demon wore a hoodie.
But we don't know if Jody was the demon, or if it was the demon trying to get its way around, it could present itself as something different. You know, if you show up as a hooded figure to a small child, they're going to be terrified. But you know what's fun? A little red-eyed demon.
Well, then why would it show up as a pig to George? If it can present itself as whatever it wants, wouldn't it present itself as a voluptuous naked woman?
Because... Okay, never mind. I was thinking of The Shining. It actually happened in The Shining. So at that point,
exactly,
George was already...
the game telephone.
And it could be the game telephone, but all of this could be bullshit. All of it could be absolute fiction. But what I'm saying is it's one of those weirdly specific details that is consistent throughout the story that makes it difficult to believe that nothing happened.
Here's my problem with all of this. You hear these fantastical stories, and this is a fantastical story. I mean, it is. This is one of those, oh my God, these are the types of things that you hear in a horror story type thing.
That's because it's a horror story.
Yeah.
It's the Amityville Horror.
And I have a hell of a time believing it because it didn't happen to me. But when people ask me, tell your scary story from Malvern, I feel the same way. It's like, nobody's going to believe this cockamamie story because it sounds too fantastical horror story to be real. But it
Which is even
happened.
less incentive to try to market it. If you're the Lutz family and you're just spoofing this to make a story, that's even less incentive because it's too fantastic.
So who's to say that George Lutz was not just a really bad businessman and lazy, and his business was tanking, and he didn't move in knowing he was going to tank his business?
Tanking because he didn't go to work.
Okay, but let's say that one didn't have to do with the other. He bought the house, he moved in, his business started tanking because whatever reason it started tanking. He had to figure out a way to make money. Who's to say he wouldn't make up a story hoping? His business was already tanking.
To be fair, Darren hit it in the comments. The Lutz family actually didn't make any money off of this.
Didn't they, though?
If it was under the per my experience, people aren't good at
but I thought
cover-ups
right
for a long
afterwards they
time.
went around and did like speaking events about this, and they were on shows and.
So Darren asked the question about the priest, and I wanted to hit this one out of the fucking park. Darren, your question was, so what about the priest? He came forward saying that he heard the voice telling them to get out. Actually, in speaking terms, the priest was like, yeah, all this crazy stuff happened. And he signed affidavit with the police. He had never even been to the Lutz house. So his verbal story is like, yes, I went in and tried to cleanse it. And the demon was like, get out. But what actually happened was the priest never actually was at the house. So yeah, this is definitely leaning towards some of it's fabricated. It's just a matter of what. Why was the priest included? Because it was the 70s and the Catholic Church was sexy.
or he was really there and it really happened. And when
then he lied in a sworn affidavit,
right? But
which is illegal.
So, no, I about said that on air. But maybe he didn't want to get blamed. Maybe he was thinking that they were going to point the finger at him, that he could have prevented all of this, and he changed his story to say, "Oh no, I was never there."
But that's the thing. I haven't heard a whole lot of people say that it's the priest's fault. I don't know. I don't think I'm the only one to have had that approach, but that's kind of where my brain's a little.
Mama Pat has got a strong point. My thought. He wanted out of his mortgage. He lived in a murder house. A haunting might get him out from under either by capitalizing on the story or by claiming they weren't obligated to pay for a haunted house.
I would have to look more into that, so that might be like a post for a later time, but I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around the concept of the bank is going to be like, oh, the house haunted, my bad.
There are certain states that you have to disclose if your house is haunted.
If your house is haunted or a murder occurred?
They're both. There's certain states that you have to let the buyer know if there's been any deaths in the house, and you have to let them know if your house is haunted.
But how can you prove something's haunted?
You can't prove it.
Well, then I don't know how any respecting,
I understand that wholeheartedly.
A fiscally tight, money-tight community like
God.
Amityville, which is the Beverly Hills of Long Island.
And if I was like the Lutz family and I had not gone public with any of this shit, I would be like, oh, fuck no, this house isn't haunted. You can buy it. You'd be great. And then if you came back to me, I'm like, nothing happened to me. You guys are crazy.
Oh, exactly. Why didn't you just do that in the first place?
I would never admit to it, but if I didn't want them to be able to come back to me. But, that could be true, is that he got in over his head. And, I'm not saying that this is the case, but because it was a movie and there's embellishments in the movie, but one of the Amityville movies that was out there, the couple that moved in kept saying, we can't even afford the utility bills. We can't even afford the utility bills for this place.
It was definitely pricey.
Because he bought it so low price, did he not anticipate how high the upkeep of the house would be? And he needed out. He was going under.
But if you had other ways to get out, why wouldn't you do something more practical than
maybe he didn't have a way to get out?
Chase me out. If you're going to try to fool a bunch of people, burn the bitch down and call it in as an insurance claim. I feel like there's a lot less intricate, risky ways of making any sort of profit off of it.
But it's a whole lot easier for me to say, my house is haunted, prove it's not, than it is to say, I started this fire, don't figure out how I did it.
But I'm not going to disagree with that.
Arsonists get caught.
I'm not going to disagree with that even a little bit. But what I'm saying is there's no way that he could have proven that was going to be profitable in any stretch of the imagination. There's no, if you're making a plan to get out of your mortgage, you're not going to go with ghosts. You're going to go with something is going to give you a return.
Darren, I think you're asking about the disclosures about if there's if there's deaths in the house or the house is haunted. I don't know even
but
for sure.
But they went into buying it that the murder occurred. They bought it for
they
less than 50% than what the actual market value was because of the murder.
And we don't know. To be very honest, we don't know in that state if there is a requirement to let people know that that people have died in the house or that it's haunted. But obviously, anybody who moved into that house had to have known that it was haunted or that there's been deaths in that house, because that was a really well-known murder that happened there less than 12 months ago. So I don't know how they could have possibly 13.
That's more than 12.
I don't know how they could have possibly not known that there had been deaths in the
house.
They
did know. It was a big thing. So they knew. They just weren't superstitious people.
Yeah. Yes. People do crazy things and then try to capitalize on it. We'll just go with that rather than reading the whole comment, because I don't want to be sued either.
I saw it.
So yeah, I don't know. I think in Louisiana though, I think that is a law that you have to disclose if the house is haunted.
But we're talking about a very posh neighborhood.
But if it's a state law, it doesn't matter.
That the state had told us that everything.
Iowa has state.
I was trying to go back to the quarantine thing, because when Iowa was like, "Hey, everybody shut down," the neighborhood pool is still open because that homeowners association technically was a private thing.
No, the pool closed down too for a while.
Oh, did it?
Oh yeah, it was closed for quite a bit.
There's still a stupid number of people in that pool.
Oh yeah, when they opened back up, it was way too many. But it hit.
So we're going with potentially factual but over embellished.
I absolutely believe
because
that
I know we have like 10 minutes left. I really want to dive into what happened after.
I wholeheartedly believe that it could have been haunted. I would wager to guess that there may have been some liberties taken on the story.
That's where I'm at. I don't think anything super lucrative happened. I don't think the Lutzes did it to get out of their mortgage. I don't know what exactly.
But I would love to talk to one of them.
Oh yeah.
Because that would be my.
Did you not see the comments on one of the posts?
Yeah.
We'll have to.
That isn't one of the Lutz family though. That's somebody who knows one of the Lutz families.
Yeah.
So.
But friend is.
Oh yeah, but that would most definitely.
I know, right? This hour went fast as fuck.
That would seal the deal for me. If I could talk to them and or go into the house myself, that would be. And this has nothing against the Lutz family. So if this ever gets back to the Lutz family, this show, this is nothing against you guys.
And I don't think they care anyways because they've been scrutinized by the whole country for decades.
But this is my stance on anything. I'm not going to say, oh, absolutely, that place is haunted without me personally going in there and getting to experience it. And
I feel like this goes without being said with anybody's, like, at least for us, our opinion on anything. I was just more looking for a speculation, like where you stand with the information you have.
I think there was probably something that happened that at least sparked off the haunting. If nothing else, there was the residual energy in the house. Did it get as big and bad as they said? I would lean towards no without further proof. You?
I think very similarly. I think stuff happened. I think the Lutz family was like, oh, fuck this shit. Ghosts real. It got the hell out. And once they had, like, the family was like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, fuck, all the ghosts is fucking crazy. You won't believe all this stuff. And then they got in touch with a cool author who turned their story into a best-selling hit.
Yeah. If they didn't make any money on it at all, why were they working with his lawyer, though?
So I could see, like I said, this was the mid-70s, sex just was fresh in everybody's mind, a lot of crazy stuff. And this was Butch DeFeo's lawyer. If he was trying to get and they were constantly doing repeals on this case, if he was trying to get a plea of demonic influence, I can see why he'd want to visit the Lutz family for a night and just see what they have to say about everything. I suppose. So why did Paranormal Activity stop after the Lutz family left? So there's this cool reporter lady. Question. There was this cool reporter lady whose name is escaping me. It starts with an L. Basically, this is where the Warrens come into the Amityville picture. She got a bunch of well-known paranormal investigators, psychic medium. Actually, it was mostly psychic mediums. Came over to the house. She referred to it as a psychic slumber party. And if anybody in the comments section remembers this broad's name, by all means drop it because I'm blanking.
Drawing a blank.
Hard right now. But basically what happened was the whole family, not the whole family, the whole group of psychics and paranormal investigators went in and basically cleansed the house.
Oh, that's right. The psychic party or whatever.
The psychic slumber party. And they went in and they cleared it all out.
I don't know.
So are you saying that Ellen Marie and Warren are full of shit? Oh,
no,
in the box right now.
I mean, I'm not because I don't know. So here's my thing. Ed and Lorraine Warren. They fall into the same category as everything else. There's a part of me that really, really, really respects them because I think that they did a lot of things to handle themselves well, and that they weren't these, oh my God, look at me people. They tried to be respectable people, but yet everywhere they went, there was a demon. And that's where they lose me, Well,
by their, thing was demonology, though.
Right, but...
So was that everything was a demon, or every time they were called in, it was because these people knew,
But there's not that many demons. Okay. Meh.
You're so skeptical with demons. Why?
Between you and me,
Okay.
how many hundreds of locations do you think we've been in?
A lot.
Have you ever met a demon?
Several. I've been possessed twice since this episode started.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Do I need to get your shirt a little tighter for you, Zach?
Oh, this is a pretty tight shirt right now. This is an all-live thing.
Good God. Anywho, that also had to do a lot with their belief system. They're strong Catholic. They're, was there something to it? Maybe. But then, okay. And again, this is just hearsay, but, supposedly they were involved in the Amityville Horror story, and they went out and they did the house, but then they supposedly...
Well, they did after, but they weren't involved with the Lutz families.
Supposedly, they also went to the Conjuring house. And to hear the family talk, they didn't really have that much to do with it. And that's coming straight from the lips of the family.
I was saying, I feel like we're treading on a weird, sacred ground with the Warrens right now.
And I
feel like I'm tiptoeing more than I've ever really tiptoed when I talking about particular topics.
I don't want to not believe them, and I don't want to badmouth them, but I have to... See, this goes back to where this is never going to be solved, because I don't want to talk to Ed and Lorraine. There's an issue there.
If there's anybody inclined to leave an EVP, you literally make a thing out of talking to dead people. Oh my God.
Oh my God, can I talk to Lorraine Warren? That would be amazing. That would be so cool.
See,
if you're listening, come talk. Could she be one of my spirit guides? How cool would that be? Okay, sorry.
But she's Catholic.
So, maybe she's going to come down and whip some godliness into me.
Anyways.
For the record, because we do Whiskey Wednesdays, and it's not a Whiskey Wednesday, but it's a Wednesday and I'm drinking whiskey. What kind of brand? I don't remember the brand name. It's Tennessee something or other. There's a salted caramel whiskey. So,
to preface this hard squirrel, she's drank as much as me tonight, and that's saying something, because I don't necessarily... in volume, I drink a fair amount, but my body's got a weird liver. I process it super quick, and she's drank as much as me, which is
it's really warm in here.
4 times as much.
This is so good. It is.
But yeah,
so
the psychic slumber party occurred. They cleansed the house.
If it was truly that bad, that would have to be some super fucking mojo in those psychics to get that much out of there. Not saying it couldn't be done.
So you are acknowledging. So this one time you played the hypothetical, the information given to us is what it was.
That the psychic...
You're killing me, Smalls.
That the psychic slumber party happened?
So there was a couple other things. I know...
Wait.
We're at an hour, lady.
I know, I don't care. So the... Are you saying that
Yes, Darren, we need to get in the house and figure it out for ourselves.
Oh my God. If anybody can arrange us getting into...
As far as I'm aware, the house is... listed retail price is $800,000. I feel like everybody in the comments, if we all chipped in, it's good to go. I would let everybody in the comments section.
That might be an issue.
Everything's for sale for the right dollar. Yes, everybody remember to like and share. I had one last little thought on this. It was the whole built on Indian burial grounds thing. And I think that's similar to the Poltergeist, where everything has to be a demon now because of The Exorcist. Because of Poltergeist, anything that's an intense haunting that's not a demon has to be built on Indian burial grounds. Because I hadn't heard anything about that prior to the 80s.
I mean, I'm sure it happened, but...
I mean, it wasn't a thing.
They just probably weren't able to talk about it, so...
About it being burial ground?
Probably.
No, it wasn't a thing.
That it wasn't as talked about. That if they did happen to find out that they built on an Indian burial ground, it was very hush-hush. Nobody talked about it.
The Shinnecock Indians live 70 miles to the north.
Well, in this particular... I'm saying in general.
Oh, I'm referring to the topic of the show tonight.
Well, yeah, for this one, yeah. Not to say that they didn't ever cross that area, but that wasn't their common burial ground.
Exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't supposedly the sacred whatever ground.
It wasn't sacred. It's allegedly where they dumped the mentally handicapped to die. That's not sacred.
Oh, that's not sacred, I guess, but a designated spot.
All right, so we've been all over the place. I feel like it's just been a whole lot of talking back and forth for the whole episode. I feel like it's a good one. I think the people in the comments section enjoyed themselves.
I don't think we have a damn thing figured out from where we started.
I don't think we ever will. So, you ready to knock this sign off out of the park?
For anybody who would happen to know how to get us into the Amityville house, hit us up, because that would be amazing. That's a place that I definitely would want to get into, even if it was just like 1 hour walkthrough of the house. That would be so cool, just to feel it out. Don't see that I see this happening in our lifetimes, but how cool would that be?
Yeah, definitely. Sign off time. Are you ready? All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Traveler's Moon podcast. As always, I am your co-host, Chris Nielsen. I said last week I was just going to list something I was doing, or something about where I was at. So holding a pen, Chris Nielsen, and you are?
You're so weird. I'm Kelly McCarville, Moonspinner.
See, that's the thing. I was trying to get away from the Paranormal thing. So you've got Moonspinner. I've got Chris holding the blue gel pen. Anyways, thank you once again for tuning in. If you're listening to the live show, thank you. Be sure to hit us up on social media if you haven't already, under Traveler's Moon anywhere, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you're listening to the after show, just remember you can always tune into the live shows and participate in the always active chat.
And Rusty, bookmark this, because this is going to be the same site for every week. So a gal that wanted in to listen was having trouble finding the link. So save the link. We're always on the same one.
Same place every other week.
Speaker.com. Next 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now, next show.
Are we sticking with haunted objects?
Haunted objects and Dybbuk boxes.
Objects. Because you think that we got Riley with each other on this one. Wait till we start talking about haunted objects.
Okay, so my problem is with haunted objects and Dybbuk boxes, I feel like we're going to hit some very common ground.
Oh, no.
We're going to hit some common ground. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Like us on social media. Be sure to subscribe if you're listening to us anywhere outside of, even if it's on Spreaker, like and share. But anywhere else outside Spreaker, be sure to like us and subscribe. And you have a beautiful night, you sexy beaches.
Bye-bye.